Are you going to win because you have a better widget? Are you going to win because you have great product? People who want to move, people want to have fun, people want community. So how can people work together in unconventional ways?
Where do you think the appetite of the investors lie today?
We're still fighting a lot of stigmas. You know, that gym bro stigma, the Venice Beach before and after diet hack. So that's something that people are trying to get away from. And a lot of people said this, every concept's not supposed to be 1,000. The 250 amazing locations with great unit economics, wow, that's a hell of a business.
Edward Hertzman, serial entrepreneur in fitness, and passionate about all kinds of things that happen in the media space when it comes to health and a bunch of other things. Welcome to the show.
That's great to be here, man. Thanks for having me back.
So happy to be catching up with you again. I know that you just wrapped up a huge event that you organized in New York City that gathered a lot of folks from fitness and wellness especially. How was it? How did it go? I'm very sorry and sad that I missed it, but that's why I have you on the show, so you can tell us all about it.
I mean this with all the humility in the world. I've been doing events now for more than 15 years, you know, for various media properties that I've run. And this exceeded my expectations. This really, really did. I would say that the energy, the excitement, and the appreciation. I mean, I have handwritten notes being sent to the house. I have bottles of wine being from guests, not partners, not sponsors, people I don't even know, thanking us for doing this. And people, I remember when we were going through this, and I'm like, Leo, are we crazy? I mean, we're branding every wall, every piece of glass, even the bathrooms we changed to be our branding. The plants had our logos on them. I'm like, are we out of control? Like, are people going to even notice this? Like, this industry doesn't have events produced at that level. And people noticed all of it. And they're like, it was amazing. They're like, oh, I love the energy of the main stage. You were shooting lights. I mean, they're like, it didn't even feel like an event. It felt like there was an energy around it that I can't even explain.
Where did the idea of organizing such a massive event come from?
I mean, it's not a unique idea. I don't want to take credit for inventing something that already exists. Basically, it was, what do other industries have? What is table stakes? And why does fitness, wellness, maybe health? I would say health has much bigger conferences and events, so this is less.
That's probably
unique.
Right.
So just taking what other industries have, and bringing it here and saying, okay, now this industry notoriously doesn't have the same budget, doesn't have the same, ability to spend on marketing, on travel. And so I can understand why it's hard to produce that, especially in a city like New York. But I believe that if you create the value and you bring the right people together, you'll create everyone will step up in time. We made an investment for the future.
Yeah, and I think that the timing of it was right, because there is a huge momentum that is happening in the industry right now, and everybody is kind of looking around. What are the latest trends and tips and tricks, etc.? There is a bunch of investment flowing into the health, wellness, and fitness category. So I think that connecting it with the momentum that is in the space right now also played a key role.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the bet I made 5 years ago, right? Like the amount of deal flow. I think also it's, in my opening remarks, I said, I don't even know what we call our industry. Because when I looked out into the audience, I saw doctors, I saw med spas, I saw hotels, I saw ad agencies, I saw analysts, investment banks, wellness centers, boutiques, it's not just fitness. And is it wellness or where does the longevity players come into play? Like, and there's a lot of wellness washing going on right now. Every single company is positioning themselves as a wellness brand. So
it's either a wellness brand or an AI brand these days.
Correct. That's everything. So what is this sector? That's like, this wasn't a fitness event. this wasn't a longevity event. Well, what was it? And I think that's also what's unique is you start bringing some of these people together. And that's what I was saying is how do we encourage and support collaboration and partnerships that maybe wouldn't normally happen? That maybe normally wouldn't, you don't see a cruise ship and think Zumba. You don't see a cruise ship and think Expo. You don't see City Pickle and think Bar 3. But there are the people who want to move, people want to have fun, people want community. So how can people work together in unconventional ways? And I think that's what we were also trying to change the mindset at the start to say, look, ROI, yes, everyone's trying to make money. Like that's without cash, you don't have a business. However, not all value is $1 today. And there is other ROI created. Like, we did our events at NASDAQ for 2 years. The first year we rang the bell. We had a small breakfast. Last year we did a CEO summit, and then we rang the bell. And, you have the CEO of Aura speak, and you have, a Mark from Catterton there, and you have executives at that level. I'll be completely honest. We didn't make any money. But from a brand positioning, from a marketing position, there was tremendous value because I think what happens is, especially today where everyone is creating content. Well, okay, yeah, I like you guys, but do you really have access to these people? Do you really know all these big CEOs? Do you really? Whoa. There got a lot of them in the room right there. Well, wow, you must be a credible association that NASDAQ has invited you 2 years in a row. You walk into the event last week. Well, I've never seen this many CEOs in one place. How do you know all these people? It legitimizes the brand. So does that ROI? Of course there's that's a valuable investment. But I think people have to start thinking differently. Like I said, I know a bunch of facilities and people that have these like Saturday morning run clubs. And they give them the t-shirts and they run around the city. They don't really make any money doing it. They're already members of the gym. I'm like, you got people running up and down the block, sporting your brand, wearing it to breakfast with their friends. You're retaining them. You're creating community and brand around that. There may not be an additional fee for that, but there's value in that, so.
There's a lot of value. The power of the community is insane these days.
And when you think about, and this came up in the panel about consolidation and rationalization with McKinsey and Catterton, the barrier to entry is becoming relatively easy. And how do you differentiate one HVLP from another, or even one luxury from a mid-tier to an HVLP? You and I could rent a space, and we know the best equipment. We know the best wellness products. We know where to get the best certification. So how do you continue to innovate? How do you continue to, what's your point of differentiation? And part of that is going to be that community. That's, Equinox has done a very good job at that. It feels like you're belonging to a social club, right? It's more than just the weight. I mean, you and I could go get 40-pound dumbbells anywhere. It's something about being part of that is intangible.
And some people are extremely proud of it, to be honest.
100%. You see the brands where people walk around with the merchandise and the brand on it. They're proud to support that. Very few brands have that power.
Yeah, it's very hard to build, but once you break through it, then the power of that brand is insane.
And I would also add to that, and this is a big part of what, again, I talked about in our opening remarks. You have to almost be disrupting yourself. Because I said the biggest competitor is probably not in this room. The person that's going to put you out of business is not in this room. Someone you don't even know. Someone working in stealth mode. I mean, and I use this example over and over again throughout my career, but Airbnb wasn't started by Hilton. Spotify wasn't started by the music labels, and Barnes and Nobles didn't start Amazon. So why is it these outsiders that come in, they see an opportunity and they completely not even compete, revolutionize the space? And so I think that even if you have, it's kind of hard. Like, I felt a little bit of pushback yesterday. Our event's over. We had our sales meeting and I told the team about, okay, we need to do this. Oh, you're deflating. That's deflating. We had such a good week last week. Like, I feel down now. I'm like, guys, one has nothing to do with the other. We still have a business we have to run. We still have 365 days in the year that we have to. So it's like, even if you have a great year, you have a great quarter, you have a great launch, you have a great whatever. I hate to say it. And that's why I keep quoting the book, Only the Paranoid Survive. You got to be a little paranoid.
Well, and like you never want to stop evolving, you never want to stop improving things, right? And the fact that you just had a great moment does not mean that it will come again on its own. So
Yeah, or
you
you could,
constantly have to protect yourself.
yeah, or you could rest on that success and probably get away with it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but then people are going to start to see the holes and they're going to fill it versus you identifying, being reflective and saying, okay, and then also, even if it's great, how are you going to create that same excitement? What are the next 4 or 5 companies that have an innovative product? Like, we had brain mapping from One Hype, and we had the Immortal there, and we had Shiftwave, and we had the Escape. Okay, well, these are great companies that you don't really see at most exhibitions or shows or whatever you want to call it. What are those 4 products next year? So
Have you had a chance to try Immortal yourself?
yes.
What would you say about the experience?
Look, I did it at the end of the event, so I don't know if I was exhausted, if I was. I'm not a present person. I went in there for 25 minutes, and I will tell you, I didn't know that the rest of the world existed. I felt completely centered, felt very present, really like reflective and rejuvenated. Again, I could have just been so tired that I was zoned out, but I will say that as someone that doesn't often feel that, I was really taken aback. I went over to Curtis. I'm like, wow, this is something. I mean, he's stacking 5 modalities into one machine. It's also very sleek. It's cool. It's sexy. I have a similar, different but similar, that I feel that when I'm in the shift wave, it really grounds me and centers me and keeps me present. I think those are 2 really good products.
I call it a human panini maker. But I had a chance to try the chamber a few months ago, and it really put me in an amazing headspace. And as you mentioned, combining different modalities and just a lot of techniques together, I think is ultimately a very powerful move. So I feel like even for people attending the event and having a chance to see it and potentially try it, it's not something that you have access to every day, right? So it must have been something
Oh my
exciting for
God.
them too.
There was a waiting list. People were signing up. Like, again, you're like, what is this? There's a waiting list to try product. Like, that's what's so cool. I remember one of my, it's a good friend of mine. He was a vendor there. Because what am I supposed to do? I want to listen to this. I want to try this. I have meetings here. I'm like, bro, this is like Disneyland. You can't go on every ride. You go on Magic Mountain, send your wife on, and the kids on the teacup, and you all go together on this roller coaster, and you go to the Harry Potter ride. Like, you can't try everything, right? So you have to figure out, like, what do you want to do, and that also, I don't think it's a bad thing, leaving people wanting more. Also, normally we see people packing up early, people taking flights out early. People were, how come it's ending?
Oh yeah,
I had someone call.
were they
I had someone.
were they extending their stays?
Oh yeah, I was entertaining people to Saturday.
Nice.
I had someone call me and say, "We have so many appointments. What do you suggest we do Thursday? Where should we hold these appointments?" I said, I had to give the venue back, but I would maybe take a hotel suite or something and keep bringing people in, and like, it's cool. It's cool to feel that type of excitement.
What would you say were some of the most common themes discussed in terms of where the space is headed?
I mean, I think there was quite a bit of talk about femtech and female health. Undeniable, that is a not only a great business opportunity, but more importantly, it's a category that was underserved, and attention and effort needs to be put towards it. So I think female health, female wellness, femtech, I would say the conversation around community continues to be very prevalent. I think, again, that's a buzzword, but what is a legitimate community? What does a legitimate brand represent today? And how do you create that? Very, very hard, but definitely a part of the conversation. M&A, M&A, consolidation, rationalization. I think what McKinsey and Catterton talked about sparked a lot of people thinking. If you look at some of the most successful companies, M&A is part of their strategy. Now, is it me taking over three of your locations and rebranding it? Crunch? Is it acquiring a piece of technology? Is it Function buying Ezra so they can do body scanning in addition to blood work? Is it two at-home companies coming together because they realize the market's too fragmented. They need economies of scale. Like they don't need 5 of X same. I think we're going to see a lot more of that, and I think it's a commonly used practice in other verticals. Does this industry need to be a little bit more aggressive in it?
And I feel like the more there is mergers and acquisitions, I think more dynamic the whole market is, and like seeing that people are starting to talk about it more and more, right? It only shows that there is something great happening for the fitness industry.
Well, the other thing I was very encouraged about was the amount of investors that were there. Analysts, VCs, private equity, family offices, and not the usual suspects. You and I know the same, 5 firms that go to every single event. Not that that's bad, but General Atlantic's there. What are some of these funds doing? Why is Bank of America there? Why are these analysts there? Because I think maybe people that traditionally invested in sports or media or consumer products, and maybe those consumer products are touching on wellness and health, now see more opportunity. And I think that if M&A and there's more successful exits that happen, I think what continues to happen in this space is we're still as an industry fighting a lot of stigmas. That gym bro stigma, the Venice Beach before and after diet hack. So that's something that people are trying to get away from. Then you kind of had all this money flow in 2020, and a lot of these deals went south. So then people try to pull back again. Okay, now we're seeing we need wins, because when there's a lot of wins, then that fresh capital will come in. People will take bets on this. People say, okay, this I could. This is an investable category with a real tangible potential, ROI on it. And I think that's another thing about the spirit of supporting each other. Just because one person wins doesn't mean everyone else. There's enough fit people around the world that multiple concepts and multiple wearables and multiple tech companies could thrive. We need to think like that. You want to see your peers be successful, because that means there's probably more of an appetite for people to invest in you, hire you, merge with you. It's a very weird mindset that there's a lot of siloed thinking and lack of collaboration still in this industry.
Where do you think the appetite of the investors lie today, and what do they care about the most? What do you think were some of the conversations that they were the most excited about when it comes to the inflow of capital into the space?
Look, I think we see a lot of private equity in the space, and private equity tends to be more timid, right? They're not cavaliers necessarily. They are very.
It's not the 100x kind of game, right? But it's right. Looking for great returns.
They are looking for real businesses with real profit and real good operators and real potential for scalability. And so I think if you're a four-wall, what are your unit economics? Do you have potential to move into 2nd and 3rd tier cities? Do you have a great management team in place that could scale the culture and the operation? Okay, if you're at 100 locations, can you get to 2? Can you get to 3? And a lot of people said this. Every concept's not supposed to be 1,000. The 250 amazing locations with great unit economics, wow, that's a hell of a business. I think the HVLP space has shown. I mean, we saw Leonard Green buying into Crunch, and we saw EOS at like $1 billion. I mean, we saw two like $1 billion valuations this year. It's real money. These are real businesses. These are not businesses that are like, oh, they're worth $2 billion because they raised all this VC and they're losing, hundreds of millions. These are real businesses that have real cash flow, real EBITDA, and I think that's really exciting, right? Look, you're going to see bets continue to be made. Like, look at Aura. They got what, a $5 billion valuation this year. Function Health, a $2.5 billion valuation. I think people that could democratize, functional health or some of this thing, some of the, longevity. I mean, people are definitely more aware of their health. And it used to be that if you wanted to go to one of these premier functional doctors, you needed to spend $10, $20, $30,000, and you needed to be in a city where they were. How do you give people access? What Function Health is doing and Supergood is doing, giving people access to a $500 blood test with 100 biomarkers, that's great. Now, you still have to have someone synthesize the information and give you, feedback. How Aura is being so commonly used now. I mean, this is not just for the fitness community. This is for people that have a general concern about their well-being and health. And it's people are using it to track their cycle. People are using it even as a form of birth control. People are using it, to count their steps. People are using it for their sleep. So there's many. It's not just, hey man, how many reps did you do? Like that's not what these things are for, really. People have levels to check glucose levels. Like there is an awareness around health that we've never seen before.
It's funny you keep mentioning all of these companies and devices, and I am a happy user of majority of them, and I feel like a geek. But that's why I love the space, right? To immerse myself in trying everything out. And what I'd love to hear from you is if you see that how the technology is evolving, that is it potentially opening up some new opportunities that were not possible in the past from your perspective?
This is probably a question better answered by you because you have the technological know-how and background and insights to a lot of the companies you're working with. But I mean, the world is changing so fast. I mean, what AI represents is tremendous. I think, in tech, we see a lot of open source, right? And that's never like a competitive thing. It's like, okay, like a lot of people have been successful building off platforms. And actually, the more people use the platforms, the more the platforms kind of benefit from it, and it gets better and better. And it's like, it's not a zero-sum game, right? I think we're going to see more of that start to enter this space. I think there needs to be more open APIs, more integrations. You're not going to be able to own 100% of everything. So how can you be really good at something and partner with somebody else? You see eGym doing this. You see a lot of the wearable companies doing this. Some people are going to want to own the consumer 100% and let no one else come in. Or you're going to see companies like Aura, they make acquisitions because they want to acquire someone else's, hardware, software, their know-how. But yeah, I mean, I love to hear your perspective on this. I mean, you see the technology moving so fast. What does it mean?
I definitely do, and I wanted to give you that question so I can cross-compare notes in terms of what's happening on our side. But I think you are 100% right that it's such a fast-evolving space, and there's a great learning from the big tech companies because they tend to open source or provide the cutting edge things very early on in some of the cases. And I do not think that it's happening in the fitness and wellness space to that extent. And the reason why they do that is the adoption, because if you can basically break certain threshold of adoption, and if you can have all the gym operators or a big part of the gym operators starting to use similar tools, similar technology, suddenly you have a big reason to double down on that and it helps everybody, as you mentioned, right? It's not just building in silos, but also trying to move the whole industry on its own, basically. So I definitely do think that it's one of the things that could help the overall space. But on top of that, I think that there is an immense opportunity to provide a way deeper personalization and just tailoring, because everyone is different. Everyone is extremely unique, and there is 1,000 different kinds of offerings. And if you are a brand and you manage to gather all the data points into one place so you can make the right calls, provide the right content, and provide a truly personalized experience, that I think is extremely powerful, and that I see a lot of companies in the space starting to think about how do they set up their data strategies and data stacks and tech stacks in the right way. And like what we have been doing for a long time was experimenting on both sides of the spectrum. You are on one side of the spectrum where you try to build everything on your own, and then you are on the very opposite side of the spectrum where you outsource everything, right? And I think none of them is right. You want to be leveraging the third-party tools out there that are proven, that work, that are robust, stable, scalable, etc. But you want to blend it in with your unique experience. You just don't want to go and use off-the-shelf white label solution that everyone uses because it basically does not speak your brand language. So I think that's yet another trend that I have seen happening more and more, and the brands realizing that they also need to do their brand play when it comes to the digital products and technologies. And I have not even touched AI.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the one thing that this is a general statement that I'm about to make, but let's say you're a denim company, you're a t-shirt company. Should you be reinventing Shopify? Like the checkout's already pretty well done. The shopping cart's there. The product assortment's there. The inventory mechanisms are there. I mean, they've built a great platform. Are you going to win because you have a better widget? Are you going to win because you have great product, a great fit, great brand ambassadors, great distribution? I'd probably argue yes. And so therefore, if you're like, oh, I'm going to recreate this tech, I would say that's probably a failed way of thinking, right? Focus on your key product. Now, there's other examples, to your point, where people take right off the shelf and they have a really bad experience or it doesn't speak to the brand, and that's, like when you even look at like some of these virtual events and stuff that happens, like, I just don't use Zoom. We use platforms. We use things that are much better. Yes, they're off the shelf, but you have to design the back end or the front end to be consistent with your brand. You want the user experience to be consistent with your brand. And I think that's really what you're talking about, is you got to make sure that whenever the customer, we're rebuilding our whole site, because over the next 90 days, I want that site to feel and look and have the same sleekness, sexiness, sophistication, seriousness like the venue had. And so to your point, I think every touch point up with your customer should be consistent in that look, feel, and brand experience.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And just to double down on the Shopify example that you mentioned, just with this, you can go about it in a lot of different ways, right? I think Shopify is an insanely useful tool on the back end of things. It's connected to everything when it comes to logistics, that easy. But do you want to be relying on a template that Shopify provides if you are a big brand? You mentioned it with the event that you just hosted in New York, where you branded every single wall. And this is exactly the case. You want to make sure that the front end, the basically part of your digital product that the customers interact with speaks your brand language. And that's where you come in and you build a custom front-end interface that plugs into a proven, scalable third-party solution like Shopify or, thousand other tools that you might be able to leverage as a fitness brand for different purposes. And then you tie it with a great loyalty tool. You tie it with great communication when it comes to emailing, push notifications, text messages, etc. And that creates that brand experience that people are excited about suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have that other manufacturing business where we do like all the on-demand manufacturing for the fitness studios and the wellness brands. And Active Source Lab, that was built on a headless Shopify. So to your point, we took the engine, we took the back end, but the front end was completely rebuilt. It's all, to create the functionality where people can upload and create their own graphics and move the thing. That's not a template. Like we had to build that. And so to your point, knowing what is already done, that's great, but also knowing when to lean in, get professionals like yourself to build that out. I mean, I had no idea. I didn't even know what headless Shopify even meant.
Well, now you know. Yeah. Now you seem to be quite well versed with it.
So yeah, I mean, you learn. So many of these things. I always joke with my brother. We worked together for like 13 years or whatever, and I'm like, Eric, I gave him a stack of papers. I want you to figure out the sales tax issue on one of our other companies. He goes, how do I know? I go, I don't know either. I don't know. Call the accountant. Call the state of just call Avalara. Like some of this stuff you just learn trial by fire.
What would you say are some of the trends in fitness that you are personally the most excited about?
Trends in fitness that I'm the most excited about.
Make it personal. Like what are the products that you either are interacting with quite often or you would love to be interacting with?
I want to broaden it a little bit bigger than fitness,
That's fine. We take that.
I have the 8 Sleep, and I'm absolutely blown away by that product. I was very skeptical. I mean, what do you mean you're going to help me sleep better? What are you you're gonna invent hours in a day? Like, what does that mean? And one of the co-founders, like, I bet you're leaving something on the table. I bet you could be more efficient. I bet you could be more energized. I'm like, all right, well, let me try it. And I will tell you, I fall asleep quicker. I wake up more naturally. I have a deeper sleep. I'm more cognizant of my sleep. And you start becoming more aware. I'm not a data geek. Like, I'm not something like, I know when I sleep 5 hours, I'm going to feel shitty. I also know when I get a good 8 hours sleep and I ate earlier and I didn't have any alcohol and I didn't have caffeine late in the day. Like some of these things doesn't need a gadget to tell you, but I think when you start seeing it, it's like positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. It plays with you a little bit. So like a product like that, I think the business of sleep is a great category that we're going to see a lot more investment in and adoption because I'm a believer in it. I will also say, as someone that works with Dr. Lippman, who's like OG in functional medicine, I am more and more a believer in this way of thinking. And what I mean by that is typically, I have an ulcer. Well, they give me antacid. 20 years later, you develop another problem. They give you this other pill. They give you this other pill. Where they're like, well, why did you develop the ulcers? Why do you have SIBO? Why do you have these things? Let's figure out root cause a little bit. Okay, there are times where we're going to need antibiotics. We're going to need traditional medicine. There's other times where is there supplementation? Is there diet changes? Is there environmental changes? And I'm not trying to say like hokey, like you're going to take fish oil and vitamin D and all of a sudden you're going to, but I see on my own personal journey, I've seen a change. And, the old saying, when the pain of changing is easier than the pain of staying the same, you often change. And so I think that the more that's democratized and the more it's accessible to people, I think we're going to see a healthier, it's this whole preventative care, right? Like, is there a way to be prevented versus react to being sick? I was never I was a guy that went to Equinox 3-4 days a week. I box once or twice a week. I golf once or twice a week. That was always kind of like the extent of my fitness journey, which I would say probably puts me in the 90% more active than most Americans. However, since getting into this business, I have become increasingly more, I didn't feel well a couple of weeks ago. I went to Restore for the Myers cocktail. Oh, a friend of mine owns Stretch, and going to get a stretch. Like I'm trying more modalities. I'm trying more things. So being fit is healthy is not just lifting dumbbells. What else can I do? I'm really impressed by the Hyrox guys. What Christian has done. I'm very friendly with Doug. You and I have talked about this. I mean, I was there, a few weeks ago in New York. I mean, 40,000 people on a wait list. I mean, talk about community.
Insane. I was not able to get in whatsoever.
So let me know next time. They're good friends. But I got a little bit of FOMO, and I'm like, I said to my editor, Josh, maybe we need to do this. I said to my buddy, Kenny, hey, man, maybe you need to train me for this. So, I mean, stuff like this, it's like, I feel like we report on it. We work with these guys, but I want to say that, hey, I also did it. I want to be part of that community. I mean, it's impressive what they're doing. And so stuff like that.
You know that I'm a Hyrox freak right now. Do you think that you will give it a shot at some point?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how many times I could go to it and just be a spectator. It's like,
Not that many. Not that many, I feel like.
But I think that it's not only a great concept, they're good people. I like them. I like what they're doing. They're really protecting their brand too. They've created demand in a world where there's almost unlimited access to stuff. There's plenty of supply of fitness and modalities. How do they have something where there's a wait list? It almost sounds crazy, right?
It is insane. Like when you imagine what they did to the hybrid sport industry when it comes to just the amount of eyeballs and people that are interested in participating in an event, and how they are able to basically sell out every single event and still be growing, like basically doubling year over year. Where do you think this can go?
Well, I think part of the reason that it's doubling and growing every single year is because there's a wait list. Very few brands in this world has been able to create scarcity. And look at some of the most premium brands. You walk in to get a Birkin bag, they say no. Well, if you buy this, maybe you'll be on the list, and maybe in a few years from now you'll get this $20, $30, $40, $50,000 bag. What? You want to buy certain watches. Sorry. What do you mean sorry? Here's money. Sorry. Makes you want it more. Most things, it's like, really? You raise the price, $2, I'm going to go across the street. Like, oh, that gas is 10 cents more, I'm going to go down the block. Like, it goes back to building a brand. And I think when you have the ability to create some level of scarcity and demand, and then make people wait for it. Again, if that event was 20 days in a row, or if there was 10 Hyroxes in New York every year, wouldn't it be the same thing? And I'll tell you the other thing is, it's very motivating. Most of those people are in very good shape. And you know what?
I would say so.
And you know what? Even the people that are not in good shape, they're running, they're doing everything. So for me, I had an aha moment a year ago. I was talking to Noah Galloway. He's a very well-known fitness personality. Unfortunately, he lost an arm and a leg. He was in the military. And he's been on the cover of Men's Health. He's an ambassador for F45. Super nice guy. In better shape than you and I. I mean, this guy is an inspiration. And he says to me, I really hated running with two legs. It's like, how much do you think I like it with one? And I was complaining to my buddy Eric, Eric, and I'm like, yeah. I'm tired. I want to go home, take a nap. I think we stayed out a little late the night before. And this guy is in 95-degree weather, like
running with one leg.
Gives you a wake-up call right there, you know what I mean? And so you're like, wow. It's make it really, you talk about getting, introspectives and like makes you think about life a little bit. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. You just have to
Yeah.
be committed to it.
No, I think it's a huge wake up call if you look at it that way. That
What excuse do I have?
we often we often look for motivation, right? And I feel like the motivation should be primarily coming from us being healthy and being able to move. And when we see these inspirations, and I think that Hyrox actually does an amazing job with that because they open up to these kind of people that have certain disability. They let them compete. They let them go through the entire challenge. They adjust for them. And like, I'm just watching the videos and my mouth goes, what is that? Like, this is such an inspiration that someone who is impacted by something really, really bad happening in their life on the health front, and they are still able to compete this crazy race. That to me is like, and I ultimately tie that to the brand, and then like I think it also helps with positioning.
Yeah, I think also it's kind of got that marathon feel where you don't really know who's in first or who's in last. So I feel like you're also could be comfortable. You could be 20 minutes ahead of me, but not necessarily like throwing it in my face. You know what I mean? Like
It's not about that.
like,
I think that the challenge itself is so difficult that it, for the most part, unless you are on the very competitive edge of the sport, is you competing with yourself, right? You completing the challenge, right? If you go and run a marathon, right? Am I going to be asking you if you won the marathon? Probably not, right? But I still find it as a huge challenge, and it's not easy, of course. Like many people do it, yes, but I feel like there is something that really helps to shape the mind to be able to go through those challenges, and I think it's very beneficial for life.
100%, 100%.
So if you could pick a city where you will do your first Hyrox, which one would it be?
I think in Mumbai, because there 2 hours you probably win. So maybe I could be the Hyrox Mumbai champion.
That would be cool. And like, where do you think that if you could make a prediction for Christian and the guys, where do you think they can take the sport? I know that Christian mentioned on some of the podcasts that his ambition ultimately is the Olympics, which would be, of course, extremely cool. But what do you think they can do with it from your perspective?
Well, I'm glad he said that because I didn't want to be the one to say it, but I think it could become an Olympic sport. I do believe that is very much on the roadmap for them. I think that they have built a brand that is going to continue to expand globally. Look, I think there's a lot they could do with this brand, and I talked to them about it, so I don't want to share too much, but I think that when you have that many engaged consumers and that many passionate people, there's many different auxiliary things that could come out of it, and businesses that could come out of it, and investments that could come out of it beyond just the quote unquote competition, because everyone's not going to be able to do 10 of these a year. You maybe do one, or you do one every couple of years. So how do you stay engaged with these people you have? You're potentially going to have millions of people in your database. How else can you engage with them? What else can you do with them? They're opening these performance centers. What 5,000, 8,000, thousands, 8,000 like in the first year. So again, I think people are going to want to start training with how do I train with Hyrox in mind? How do I prepare for this? If they feel so passionate about it, maybe it's part of their, we see this with CrossFit, right? Like there are people train, they go to CrossFit facilities. And I think that, look, CrossFit is still one of the largest fitness brands in the world. Yes, Hyrox exists, but there's an opportunity for both of these brands to still be, very successful and positioned together. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm very optimistic with them. Normally, I would say things like this, they have a lifespan. You do a couple of them, but I actually think this is something that's going to continue to grow. And I think if I had to make a bet, I think you see them in the Olympics or something like that. I do not think this is a fad. I think this is a real sport and a tremendous community that they're building.
Well, I would love for them to be able to pull it off. And you mentioned CrossFit. Do you feel like CrossFit now needs to reinvent itself so they can go into their next chapter? Because it seems like a lot of people are trying to change opinion on the sport, and it's been a huge trend, and it still is in terms of the amount of CrossFit gyms out there, but. There seems to be a little bit of a downturn, at least from my perspective. And maybe I am too impacted by the Hyrox boom. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's like they're obviously trying to sell the business, and, it'll find a new home. And like anything else, and I said this in the beginning of the call, you always need to be reinventing yourself. You always need to be disrupting yourself. I don't think that is a criticism to any business. If Apple didn't come up with the iPod, and then if they didn't come up with the iPhone, and they didn't come up, you know what I mean? Now, they didn't get into the cloud. Like, you can't just rest on, the Macintosh computers, we're going to sell that for 30 years. And when companies do that, Tower Records sells DVDs and everyone streams, your run comes to an end. So I think there's enough people out there globally that are CrossFit operators, CrossFit consumers, CrossFit fans. But yeah, they have a little pressure. They have a little bit of competition. You also, now in the social media world, you have ambassadors everywhere. So, how do you continue to look? The CrossFit Games are big. It's televised. The partnerships are tremendous there. Like, we can't discount that is still one of the largest fitness brands, a very profitable company, significant revenue, significant partnerships. Like, as a media company, I can write the headline in either way. Yes, they're facing competition. Yeah, yes, there's some pressure, but it's the same thing I say about Connected. Oh, Connected's dead. I'm like, we are more connected than ever. We are more connected than ever. Do I think there's a rationalization with at home? Yes. I wish I could buy the Peloton brand. The IP, everyone knows Peloton. Do they need to change a few things here and there? Are they changing it? Is it a great brand? Yes. Did they make mistakes? They'll even accept it. Everyone thought that the pandemic was the new normal and that everyone was never going to leave their house again. And, that was going to be, if you base a business on that hypothesis, you bet wrong. So it's about reevaluating the market. But I think that company deserves to exist. It may just never be the value that it was at its peak. Doesn't mean that's not a valuable company,
That's right. And you mentioned that about private equity, right? That's the kind of businesses that they look at, right? Real ones with real revenue, real profits, and it's just like that. And it's the size of it is very solid.
Yep.
Well, to wrap things up, as you are very deep in the wellness space, what are some of your non-negotiables to stay sharp and clear and be able to operate effectively?
It's probably not the best question for me because I myself am trying to work on some of the basics. I'm trying to really improve my sleep. I go to bed. I also have an office in Malaysia, so I'm up to 1, 2 o'clock every night, and then I don't sleep enough. So I realize I really got to get my sleep under control. I strength train, 5, 6 days a week, but I definitely am trying to incorporate I've never been able to like meditate or do yoga or anything like that. I need to find things every single day to kind of calm the nervous system down. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to incorporate even if I just go for a walk for 15, 20 minutes before I work out, that's becoming important. Really focusing on diet is something that I've really been prioritizing. Really trying to get off some of the traditional medicine and use some alternatives has been something important to me. I am now exposed and have the ability to access things, like the Immortal and little places like Restore and try the shift waves. And, I just did the eVolt scan last week and okay, how do I get this score up? And this score, I was surprised I'm this good on. So I think having access to these things are making me self-aware and making me kind of want to be a better version of myself.
Eddie, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights with us. And I hope that 8 Sleep will help with improving your sleep routine even further. And happy to hopefully soon see you on the Hyrox course. Here is an open invitation to do doubles together if you'd be down.
I don't know if I'm ready for you yet, but baby.
Happy to travel to Mumbai for it or anywhere else. Just hit me up. But once again, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and I hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.